3-time WSL champion and legendary Lioness Eni Aluko in just a second's time. Is she coming up now? Is she coming up later? She's coming up now. Eni Aluko, how are you?
I've got to say, I think the fact that she was sitting there with her headphones on was a clue that you're ready to come on.
It's so nice to be here in the flesh. And
I know, because it's normally Zoom, isn't it?
It's normally Zoom, and I can't see anyone usually. It's just me talking to myself.
It's
basically.
lonely, isn't it?
It's very lonely on Zoom. So, I've made the trek across London to be here.
And it's much appreciated.
And I'm very happy to be here.
And I
this
believe you had
morning.
no trouble getting here.
Well, let's not talk about that. I did the most to be here.
How are you feeling, by the way, Eni? Eni was at Glastonbury. I was on my best behaviour, and Eni was like,
Lies.
I think you'll find Eni made her work yesterday.
What time was it though?
Well, to be fair to Laura, my call time was like 11:30.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm going to defend
Are you
Laura on
two
this
going to
one.
gang up me all morning then?
Yeah. Because my call time was.
And Laura, you
5:30. I tried the hardest.
We
as
were
well,
together
by the
at
way.
Elton, and you tried.
Didn't I?
Yeah,
I
you
laid
left.
off all the alcohol. I left at a decent time. I didn't go and party, and then my taxi got me back and dropped me. And no one's even heard my story. You haven't even heard my story.
Come on, give us it very briefly.
I couldn't get out of Glastonbury because they wouldn't let the taxis into Glastonbury. So I walked an hour in the dark. I was dragging all my stuff, and there was a lot of it.
No.
Then eventually, when I found my taxi, he, instead of taking me straight here where I had a hotel booked, he took me back home. So I woke up and I was like, why am I here? And I was so confused. And then I heard Ali had just decided he wasn't going to bother coming in either.
Oh my
So you
God.
So I just went, fine,
Anyway,
you know what?
Now that you've
Have
said
it
that,
your way.
and when did you hear that? Was that the night before when I phoned you to tell you my flight had been cancelled that you've clearly forgotten about?
Oh, but you said you were going to do it from home. I have got an answer for everything.
So we have. She's on top of it. I should have known Eni. She's
What
a
you
woman,
should have
isn't
done.
she?
What you should have done is what I did, and
She's
woke
got me
up at
tied up
5
again.
a.m. and just drove. There wouldn't have been traffic then.
Yeah,
But
I wish I'd have done that. You
Shoulda,
could
woulda,
have
coulda.
dropped me straight here, couldn't you? Anyway, she got the helicopter. Right. Annie, we were just having a really deep discussion actually just before the break. We were talking about cricket and this report that the ECB have got, and it shows that vast discrimination within cricket. A lot of it, racism, sexism, elitism. From your background in getting into football, did you ever experience anything like that?
Do you know what? When I was growing up, I was the only girl in my area on the council estate in Birmingham where I grew up, and it was all white boys, right? And they took me in, man. Like they made me feel so welcome. And it almost became a thing where I always got used to being the odd one out, and football was the way I got accepted. So I didn't really experience it growing up. I experienced it more sort of, when I got into the England team, and it became a bit more serious. But growing up, for me, football was inclusive. It was, if you're good enough, you can play. That was my experience. Do you know what I mean? And actually, those boys now, I think they set me up to always feel like, even though I'm the odd one out, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Because from a young age, they really took me in.
But it's funny, Ali, because like when you're younger, I don't think as children you really understand what that is.
Took the words out my mouth.
Right, and
my
you
kids
really
just don't. They
they
just,
just
go
get
on
on with it, right?
Yeah.
They get on with it. I think it's something, those kind of attitudes are something that are taught by everybody that is around you. I remember playing rugby, and I was exactly the same. And I get asked this, like the only thing I remember was when I was too quick for the boys, and I always remember I had my hair in a plait, and I always remember one of them going, "Grab her hair," and it wasn't sexism. It was just that they were just being quite clever about how to tackle me.
Because they thought you were probably good.
Yeah, exactly. And I was quite. It was a compliment, I think it's sometimes it's the world around you that really shapes you and really can change those attitudes. And I just wonder how long. So another thing that I was going to say, like when you started working in football, I was saying to Ali when I started working in football, like 2000, well, sport in general, 2009. When I then started moving into like the press rooms and things like that, we had a text about it. I did feel the press room was quite an intimidating environment, and I did feel like there were not many. There weren't many women in there. They weren't. But that's changed very quickly. And now I really do believe this. Maybe I'm naive, but I really do believe that the next generation of journalists, for example, that are coming through, and perhaps it'll be the same with sports as well, will then look at that and go, well, that's the norm now, and accept it. I don't know. I feel that. Is that naive of me?
A lot's shifted, whether it's on the pitch, off the pitch, in other sports as well. A lot's shifted. Women being part of the media is becoming more of the norm. There's still a few idiots that will say different things, but
there probably always will be.
There probably always will be, but that's becoming more of the norm. I think now, if you look at kids now, they don't, they're a lot more inclusive in just their behaviour. And I think a lot has shifted when you think about 10, 15 years ago to now. You look on the pitch, it's so diverse. I think for me, it's all about solutions, right? Once you identify a problem, which the ECB have done, then you got to put into action the solution. When I was a sporting director, that's what I did. I made sure that my team was the most diverse team in the league. And you have to be conscious about that. You got to, go out of your way to bring in players from all over the world, bring in staff from all over the world. They've still got to be good and still got to be the best. But you got to be really conscious about that. And so cricket has to do that now.
I was just thinking about it, because that was going to be my question to you. We heard Michael, for example, they're talking about another report, right? He said, don't get me wrong, he said he's delighted that they're doing another report. However, he'd be even happier if they acted on the report. That's his big disappointment, particularly in cricket. But I said as well, and I don't know if you guys agree, there's been criticism levelled at tennis and at rugby union, for example, with elitism as well. But getting back to what Eni was saying there, I definitely, and if I'm wrong, I know you two are the very people that will tell me, I definitely think it's miles better than it was. I think we're going in the right direction. Can it be improved? Of course it can, vastly in many areas. But I think it's not going to be an overnight flick of a switch, right? But I think we've got to continue the work that is being done. But my concern with Michael was he didn't really see enough getting done.
I think sometimes as well, like you kind of cross over from different organisations. So I think media's done a really good thing. I do. I think media's had to really look at itself and say, right, we want to diversify this and we want to bring the right and the good people in, but also we want to make this not a closed shop. And I think it's come in leaps and bounds. And I think what Michael was saying and highlighting is the fact that cricket had the chance to do that as well, and it did not keep up, and it did not catch up with the way that everywhere else is moving. Otherwise we wouldn't have such a damning report for it to be in the process that it's in at the moment. I also wanted to talk to you, Eni, about the World Cup, because I cannot believe how quickly it's literally come round. So what, July 20th?
July, yeah.
5 weeks.
Wow.
Well, do you know what? I don't want to put a down on it, but I don't feel like there's been enough promo on it. I don't know how you feel, Laura, but we're going to be working on it, but I don't feel like there's been enough talk about it. And I don't know whether that's because the whole rights stuff has distracted from it. Who's going to air it? Who's going to broadcast it? But we got to get into it now. We've got to, it's not far away. England are obviously one of the favourites, Lionesses. So hopefully, people will start getting behind it now with less than a month to go.
The World Cup gets underway 20th of July in Auckland. New Zealand versus Norway. That's the first fixture. England face Haiti 2 days later in Queensland, Australia. So it's split across Australia and New Zealand. And they've got to do it without the likes of their captain, Leah Williamson, Fran Kirby, and Beth Mead, who is just one of the best players, and Fran as well, my goodness. They are all going to miss the tournament through injury. 3 huge blows, and players that you just want in that team with their experience at the minimum, and everything else they can do. Eni, how do you think they'll do without them?
It's definitely a dent in our chances. There's no getting away from that. Someone like Leah, she's a huge figure for the team, both on and off the pitch. Fran Kirby, for me, one of the best players I've ever played with. Played with her at Chelsea, and that creative spark that you need. And obviously Beth Mead comes with the goals, but Beth's been out a while, so I think the team have probably got used to playing without her. But I think the good thing is the other favourites also have massive injuries. So the US have more injuries than we do. So I think the US have got 5 or 6 injuries to massive players in their team. The Spain team, we don't know who's in and out. There's still stuff going on with their federation. So even though England, really need to step up, and the players that replace those players need to step up, the other favourites have also got issues.
Same problem.
So I think England will still go in as favourites. I think it depends on our back line. If we can shore up our back line, I think we'll be all right. I still think we can go and win it.
It's a funny one. Absolutely. Well within the capabilities of winning it. You and I had a good chat yesterday about it. I think they'll also miss Ellen White and Jill Scott, obviously retired as well, and another 2 big names. But as one door closes, you correctly say, another one opens. But I tell you where I want to take you on this, and we spoke about it briefly yesterday, on the subject of injuries. I was doing a little bit of work, because I was working with the girls yesterday, and I'll be honest with you, would say I actually could not believe the number of knee injuries that the girls are picking up, particularly ACLs. Now, I don't know enough about it, but what I'm saying is, and I'm suggesting is, there's something not right, and I don't know whether it's parks, or I don't know whether it's the girl's body's completely different to the male body. I think there's got to be an element of that.
I think it's a combination of things, Ali. I think it's loading. So there's more games. So the Champions League went from being only straight knockout to now being group stages. So the players playing at the highest level are doing it more. Whether the clubs have the resources to cope with that, recovery and all that stuff, clearly not. I mean, Arsenal alone have 4 ACLs. There's something wrong there.
That's unbelievable.
That's unbelievable. You can't just put that down to, it's unfortunate. There's something in the sports science recovery team there that they need to look at deeper. But I think there is a general problem here in terms of, all the sports science is based on men, right? So, but women biomechanically are different, right? So all the sports science and all the practices that we do as footballers for women has to be more specific to women. Otherwise, this is going to keep happening. And the clubs are not going to have the resources to really manage the players. There's a lot of prevention as well. At Chelsea, Emma Hayes was massive on prevention. By the time you got an ACL, you're 9 months, you got to take 9 months out. Prevent it. And it's all the research around that I think is going to help the women's game.
It is fascinating. It would take us so much longer to go through. But as you know, how many of us live with a woman? If you're not a woman yourself and you're listening, you've got your wife, your daughter, your mother, anyone else, your friends and stuff like that. You know that women are built differently, right? And we go through a completely different cycle than a man does. And sometimes certain exercises just do not work for us at certain times.
Absolutely.
It's honestly, it's very, very intricate and complicated. So in a way, I'm not surprised that people don't look that much into it, because they'll probably be like, well, I don't even know where to start. But
I was staggered with you. I was absolutely staggered when I looked at injuries.
TalkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods, Monday to Wednesday mornings 6 till 10. On AM, on DAB, via the TalkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. TalkSPORT.